This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds. It was founded on the principle that all men are created equal, and that the rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened.
From what we experience as migrant workers in California, that dream, that vision grew from my own experience with racism, with hope, with a desire to be treated fairly and to see my people treated as human beings and not as chattel.
We are one, we Americans. We're one. And we reject any intruder who seeks to divide us on the basis of race and color.
Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time.
The idea that we have behind the Civil Rights Project is to reach out to people who have nobody to work with them, to represent them in the rural areas particularly, minority communities, poor people. And it also is to pick out those cases and work with those cases in which we can have the most change.
I think it gives them hope to think that there's actually, because they deal a lot with the police and government and other entities, and nobody really wants to help them, and there's language barriers always, and they're afraid to go to the government because they're afraid of the deportation and being sent away. But here they're saying, no, there's a chance. We can actually help you out here. We can give you an option. We can give you choices and things, and show that actually there's compassion in the world, and it's not just a big bad place with all the abusive stuff and the government and people not really wanting to help out. They're saying, no, here's a link, let's take it slow and let's show you what you can do to help yourself. Like I said, empower yourself and just slowly show them that there's steps they can make, because it's a process of them working through it themselves too. It's not the VAWA group just doing everything for them. It's saying, okay, well, you're a part of this, you're participating with us, and you're going to work through the steps with us and show, and they're going, oh, wow, they're realizing they can make an impact on their own lives and make a better life for them and themselves and their children.
Anytime anybody goes out there and says, we're above the law, we don't have to do what everybody else has to do, and that stops folks of any kind, in this case people with disabilities, from being able to live their life, that's where TCRP comes in. We stand for folks and all their civil rights out there, and we'll fight to the end on that. Some folks out there might think, well, it's just one person who can't get into one place. But you know what? When you go out there and do the math, you realize it's really about more than that.
I think that those are the primary objectives of TCRP, and that is, equal justice before the law, but also free speech is something that, TCRP has an expertise in defending. And I think that it was very important for TCRP to take these cases, because I think unfortunately, no one else was going to step in, because it seemed like such a large problem, because it wasn't just one or two individuals, it was 200 individuals, and at the same time it was in a community outside of Austin, Round Rock, which many people who are civil rights activists, etc., see as somewhat hostile or somewhat of a difficult environment in which to operate. And the willingness to operate in those environments, I think, is one of the, I would say, the strengths of TCRP. TCRP is a statewide organization, and we are willing to go into those environments and press for equality in those environments where it's not always guaranteed on a day-to-day basis.
TCRP is the best of both worlds in that you get to interact with your clients and see how your work is really affecting their lives, but you're also getting to be part of big changes. For instance, the Americans with Disabilities Act cases that we worked on, we, You're working for your clients, but when we prevail in those cases, the businesses are going to make changes that affect everyone with disabilities, and that's really satisfying to see and to be a part of.
She got it ready for him to come home.
Yep, got it all ready.
Ginger Galloway's oldest boy is finally coming home.
Cherry cheesecake.
Home to his favorite dessert, new clothes, and his mother prays a new life after years in juvenile detention. Joseph Galloway's story is a familiar one in Texas. Confined to a detention center at age 15 for sexual misconduct, he was abused repeatedly by the time he turned 19.
It started with a broken nose. He was molested by female staff. He was raped by an older inmate.
He's one of more than 500 children and teenagers soon to be released from state-run juvenile detention centers after allegations of widespread physical and sexual abuse, neglect, mismanagement, and a cover-up.
Trapped in an institution.
There have been public hearings. A state investigation is underway. A new management team in place.
So we are opening this agency to the media. We want parents to know if they have kids in TYC that their kids are safe.
For many parents, those assurances come too late.
It breaks my heart to think that I couldn't protect him. And it angers me to think that if I, as a parent, took my child and locked him in a closet and I stripped him butt naked and I pushed another inmate in there with him and let him rape him, they would put me in jail.
Ginger Galloway has become a child advocate.
We've got to get the bad people out.
Pushing to rebuild a system she believes nearly destroyed her son.
I can't wait to start our new path.
Byron Pitts, CBS News, Crockett, Texas.
This is a extremely important case because of the breadth of the problems that exist in TYC. Virtually everything that could be done poorly in the system is done extraordinarily poorly. Everything from the educational system in these facilities to the security to the health care, it's all a disaster. And even though there was some legislation that was passed this spring when there was a lot of attention being paid to the case, from what I've seen, a lot of these problems have not been solved and they've not gone away. So it's really important for an organization like TCRP to continue to pursue litigation in this case, to keep the pressure on TYC to change, and to eventually get some sort of enforceable agreement that we can force TYC to abide by. Without somebody like TCRP keeping a really close eye on a place like TYC, it's going to inevitably slide back into total disarray.
I think that TCRP has been there. They've had our backs since Scott and I first talked. You know, they've intervened. They have been there with advice, phone calls. They've backed us up, given us advice. They're fighting for these kids, and you know, their rights, their civil rights.
Students from Round Rock and Stony Point High Schools took a stand for immigrants' rights on March 30th and 31st. And now they're taking a stand in front of a judge. Each student cited by police in March entered Round Rock Municipal Court Tuesday to face charges of a Class C misdemeanor for either violating the city's daytime curfew or disrupting class by walking out. The Texas Civil Rights Project represents about 80 of the 200 students cited. The group believes the citations were unlawful. Those students pleaded not guilty, and each will go to trial.
These kids were exercising their freedom of speech, and the actual ordinance itself allows for the exercise of freedom of speech.
Yes, my parents supported me. My mom and my dad are both Mexican. Well, my dad's a citizen now and my mom has a green card, and they both had to go through all that process. And I think it was really difficult to get to the point where we're at, and not many people get the chance to. And that doesn't make us criminals. I don't know. I don't think that makes anyone criminals. Would that make me a criminal just for being the kid of somebody who worked really hard?